I spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to use Figma Make. Not gonna lie, I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, and I actually spent a lot of time debugging, learning from the mistakes, and restarting again and again. I think I spent like 5 or 6 hours just trying to navigate between pages and implement a few things. But I think initially, after that initial period, it helped to sort of make my workflow faster. I think I'll first demonstrate the progress so far. I was frustrated yesterday because I was not able to make the progress that I wanted, but today I was able to get most of it done. So initially we have the home page, then you can navigate between pages, screens. You can start a workout, add sound effects, add this animation to for satisfaction. I particularly like the sound effect. And then when you click next, it goes to the next. Everything is dynamic, so you can increase or decrease sets, reps, everything. And you can also add sets. Then when you complete a workout, the XP gets added for water too. Add this kind of action. Then the EXP gets added. Sleep. Sound. Switch between tracks. And then we have the battle. You can switch between each city for the rampage. And each rampage is based on the EXP. So if you don't have enough EXP, you can't go on a rampage. And I think I'm still polishing this part of like how the card stuff works. Yeah, I think that's the progress so far. Everything is dynamic. So if you might have noticed, progress bar out here changes based on the activities that you do. And even the EXP is like global and it changes based on uh, the completion rate. So yeah, everything is dynamic. I think that was the progress so far. I think my initial test was like trying to figure out how to do some stuff. I think I'll share those with you as best practices. What I realized was that there are some non-negotiables that you always need to keep in mind. The first one is that you need to use auto layout and you need to make sure the design is responsive because if it's not responsive and use absolute positioning, it kind of messes up a lot of things. For example, for instance, had to cut corners because this might be a skill issue. But uh, let me show you an example here. For example, over here, when I'm using this model, which has absolute positioning, kind of doesn't work that exactly well, and you'll have to edit it in code to get the right stuff. But then either you have to navigate through the code, or when you select it, if there are multiple layers stacked on top of each other, it becomes difficult to like uh, navigate to that specific layer. So if you are proficient with code, I think you'll be able to solve it. But then if not, it might be better to stick to auto layout. And the next one was strokes. I really wanted to use this dash stroke, but I'm not sure how to implement that. It doesn't translate well into the design, the developed design. And now it's the auto layout. Stroke is not translating well, and you need to use libraries. So libraries, if you want to keep your design style consistent, you need to use libraries. You need to publish the library from your Figma file, and then you need to use that for your Figma make. I think you can just publish it from here, libraries, and then you just need to publish it. Then the other important thing is not to you nest your layers in multiple layers because it kind of messes up the layout. You can see here like everything is very wonky and not aligned. It's because I had multiple nested layers over here, and I thought it would make everything more cleaner and organized, but that's not the way to go for. So over here you can see like I had this uh, auto layout container, and there was another container on top of it. So I had to like remove all those additional containers and have a main container with just the elements. So like that, you need to simplify the layer structure. Another thing is you need to name your layers because what happens is the AI can only understand based on the context you give it. So if there are layers with similar names, then the AI gets confused of what those layers are. And I had a few containers which I thought would make it easier for me, and I was easy to change the names. Like for instance, over here you can see hydration container, but I just duplicated all these containers with a similar style. I could have used a component, but then I used a component for most of the stuff, and then I quickly realized that it's not exactly translating how you want it to be. There are problems of it not being consistent, and it's difficult to modify them also. So in the end, what I started doing was I started copying just a specific element. For instance, over here, like I copied this element from my Figma file, I pasted it here, and then I declared it as a global component in the Figma make. So the AI understands that okay, this is a global component, and then I had asked it to create components or variants in the Figma make file itself. So over here you can see this is a white color, and over here it's green. So I asked it to change the green, and then I uploaded the green logo over here. Similarly, I changed it over here, here, here. So the variant, the state changes or the variant changes based on the page. So I felt that was like a better approach. And sometimes if you see like the AI is getting confused, you can select an element. You can select an element and declare that element as a component. So instead of using the component from the Figma file, you can just declare the one over here as a component, and then the AI understands that. And always provide guidelines to whatever you want to use. So if you were to go to the code guidelines, you can add guidelines here. You can also ask the Figma Make AI to add guidelines, so it always sticks to that. Then another thing that I found convenient was that when I'm trying to copy paste each of the designs, the styling was not becoming consistent. So what I started doing was uh, I started declaring the styles in the over here itself, and then like for instance, I declared this as a style caption, and I asked, I selected another element, and then I asked it to implement the style over here. So that kind of helped to like keep things consistent and make everything clean. And if you feel like so what I understood was that using the AI tool is kind of like a Schrodinger's cat. You don't know what's going to happen, but what you can do is basically modify the box in which the cat is to get better results. That is by providing the right context, giving it guidelines, being as specific as possible, asking it to do one thing at a time rather than multiple things, uh, then reminding it of components or whatever things that you have stated earlier. And if there are a lot of tasks to be done, sometimes the AI assistant kind of times out and it might get stuck and it'll get just pause in the middle. So you can just ask timeout or is it still working on it, and then it'll resume the activity it was doing. So if you think it got stuck, you can just ask it to continue the operation. Another useful method that I understood was that if you feel like a logic on a page is not working properly, uh, try to simplify it in your head or use like another AI tool and state the entire activity on that page or logic on that page and declare what the elements are and ask it do the functions based on that rather than making the AI think what to do. Because even though the AI feels like a prodigy, it can be childish sometimes, and it also does things that are not necessary. Uh, so if you don't have that sort of control, it goes ahead with doing things that are completely unnecessary and breaks things. So I think that's the progress so far, and that's my experience so far. One thing that I'm really happy about is that if I were to do this by myself without the tool, I might have spent like maybe many months trying to learn coding to build a good prototype, the MVP, go to get to the good MVP stage. But I think that has just been drastically reduced and uh, simplified to like 2 to 3 days. That is without sleep, but still, I think that's good in my book. So I need to fix more other stuff.